There's a story of a volleyball team in Colorado, and it's a high school volleyball team. It's an all-girl team, and this guy last year was a boy in the school. The following year, basically said he's a transgender female. No surgery, nothing. Not even like he didn't grow his hair out, like nothing. And the school allowed him to join the female volleyball team. He uses the locker room and walks around naked. None of the girls use the locker room. They go home sweaty. And they complained to the school, and the school said, oh, we're not going to, violate his rights. And they're like, well, what about our rights? And like, oh, no, you've had it easy, basically. You can use the locker room if you want. It's yours. You don't want to. It's your prerogative. But we're not going to make this transgender female have to go use a male locker room and shower there because he identifies as a female. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Do you think that's fair? Courtney?
No, don't get me wrong. I respect what they're going through. I respect that it's their decision, but I'm not going to change how I speak and how I have my rights. I'm not going to change. I'm sorry. I'm not going to say, what is it, the bonus hole? No, I'm going to say it's a vagina. I'm not going to go around saying that just because I'm afraid to offend someone. Because
how about front hole? You're not okay with that one?
No. It's nothing against them. Like, I fully respect what they're doing, but that doesn't mean that I should have to change everything about me just to accommodate them.
So do you feel it's okay to be referred to, if you're not a part of the LGBTQ plus community, to be referred to as the cisgender? Are you okay with that?
No. Because why are we changing everything that why are we changing to accommodate them? Why?
Because they have feelings.
So do we.
I know, but they're uncomfortable if you're not gonna if they feel like if I feel like a female,
yep,
and down deep inside I believe I am a female, so I should have every single right that a female has, and I should be respected as a female equally.
Yeah.
So if I play sports, I should be allowed to play on the girls' basketball team. Why do I have to play on the boys' basketball team? And if there's a female symbol on the bathroom door, I should be allowed to go in there.
God, no.
And if females are able to get certain kind of tax credits or benefits, or when it comes to maternity leave, that's the whole thing, right?
Yeah,
So the problem is, where do you draw the line? The minute you open that door,
now it's everything. You're changing everything now.
You cannot all of a sudden now say, oh, wait, we opened the door, but now we're going to say this is how far you can go. You can't. That's the problem, right? So once you open that door,
and it's been opened,
you've opened it. It's a Pandora's box. And now women are starting to realize, holy fuck, especially feminists, because this is fucking them the most. They're the ones who fought for women's rights and equality and all this.
It's going backwards.
Now you've got men who can just go and say, well, I'm a female.
Well, I think it could also be too, because women's rights were suppressed for so long. Women, we couldn't buy a house without a man's signature up until 1982.
That's ridiculous.
You couldn't buy a house. You have to have a man's signature or open a business or even a bank account.
Yeah. What if you were single?
No, period. You couldn't. You had to have a brother or husband. You could not have an open bank account if you were.
What if you didn't have one?
That sucks for you. No, literally, you could not have a bank account or sign a mortgage or open your own business as a female up until 1982. That wasn't that long ago. So you have to understand, I think as a female, getting those rights slowly suppressed, when we see our nurturing and caring selves, when we see someone that's, rejected from society the way we were once rejected from society, we want to open them motherly, open arms, oh, don't worry, and we try to get them to where they need to go faster, where we were suppressed all those years. And I think we did it too much.
Yes.
I think we should have put up a baby gate. And maybe, but in actuality, I do agree. I think I think feminists took it way too far. We're number one supporters of these arguments, and then we're going to be the number one complainers when it actually happens. And like you said, when rights start to get actually trampled on, and actually, I shouldn't say actual women, but biological women start to get raped because of these situations, or SA'd because of these situations, and because they're up in prisons and, in locker rooms and situations, our SA rates are going to skyrocket like crazy. Yeah. And then our rights are literally going to go back into the Stone Ages. But it doesn't help that as a female, we're demasculating all these males. We're demasculating them. And then that's where comes the argument where you're not going to get your traditional mother or wife and husband anymore. So it honestly, both arguments all kind of come full circle.
It's a vicious circle,
it
right?
Is.
So and everything's kind of connected together. So I think that with feminists, the movement was to really push this toxic masculinity agenda, and it's backfiring now.
I
Because what's
completely
happening
agree.
now is like, what the fuck is a man? Like, what really is a man now? Is a man the traditional man who made the decisions, who was the breadwinner, who protected the family? He took care of the family? No, he's not. Not in this country. It pays for a woman. The government supports a woman and actually encourages women to get divorced. They get spousal support, they get child support. The man is deemed as being a deadbeat dad. In family court, 80% of the time, the woman gets the children. 80% of the time, even though the father's a good guy.
Yep.
And if the woman wants to be vicious, she can just say a couple of statements. And then now what happens, no longer joint custody. The father sees the kids 4 days out of the fucking month, 2 weekends. That's 50 days a year out of 365. If that's not going to affect the child, I mean, you got to be fucking crazy if you don't think that's not going to affect the child. Both ways, if the mother's not there, it's going to affect the child. So now, if for females with this whole empowering fucking movement is that you don't need a man, well, society is going to get to where it's at now if you don't need a man. And I feel that this whole toxic masculinity bullshit that's going around, men are the ones who revolt. Men are the ones who go to war. Men are the ones who fight. Men are the ones who stand up and are a voice. Once you take that voice away, we're now all puppets. And the movement that's going to happen, we have no say in it. You know, when we had the lockdowns in COVID here in Canada, and we had that, that truck convoy that took place, that got so bad that you had people who were basically fighting back the system and saying, hey, what the fuck? Like, why are we in Ontario? Ontario had the highest lockdown rate in the world. Did you guys know that?
I didn't know that.
And we had the most lockdowns, I think.
Highest
Yeah,
rate.
yeah, we
So
did.
we were locked down the most in the entire world. It
That makes
fucked
a
up
lot of sense.
businesses. Tons of people went bankrupt. Tons of suicides took place. Marriages fell apart. All kinds of shit. So these people who did this truck convoy that went to Ottawa, you're allowed to peacefully protest. Who the fuck says you can't protest? And it went to the point that the government was involved with Revenue Canada, and they were tracking down people who were giving donations to the truck convoy that took place. And they were freezing their accounts, their bank accounts. So they were missing mortgage payments. They couldn't have money, blah, blah. It's like, what the fuck?
Why?
Yeah.
Because they were protesting against what the government was doing, and the government didn't like that. So, like, are we a free democracy? No, we're not. And the same thing's happening now with this transgender ideology. If you don't agree with it fully, then you're a bigot, you're racist, you're violating people's rights, you're small-minded.
And that's what I was going to touch on, because I heard Courtney mention earlier that she said, well, like, why do we have to change everything? And you being a mother, what's going to happen when your kids go to school and your school turns around and says,
exactly,
if you continue to referring it as a vagina, then it's considered, childhood, like, you know what I mean? And they exaggerate it to another extent.
Or they might even say, we're going to take your kid away from you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like,
you never
what
know.
do you do as a parent at that point? Because now you're like, now you're taking your kid, and your kid's learning this one ideology, and you have no, and it's not, before at least parents had the choice to say, okay, that's what your school's teaching you, but this is what you're going to learn at home.
Well, the school should not be, in my view, the school should be involved in fucking academics, like teach 1+1 and science and all that. But when when it comes to feelings, that's not the school's business. In
They're
regards
teaching
to
it, though.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, it's horrible.
That's the
I
mandate.
do believe emotion regulation is important for some students that suffer from neurodiversity, things like ADHD.
But that's at a hospital, not a school.
But there are programs for it. You don't circulate a whole curriculum around it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
There's aids, resources for it. You don't make everybody have to do that.
Yeah.
Because 1 out of 5 children suffer from it.
Yeah.
Is that what they're doing? They're making everybody take that? What you said about the support groups.
No, well, I'm just saying, like, in general, like, that's what they're doing down here in Peel Region. I know that when the kids are entering the school, they're asking the children, what do you want to be referred to as?
No. In Ontario, they're not doing that. But instead, what they're doing is they're getting children, when they go to school, you write down your name and you color it. There's a square beside your name. You color it blue if you're a boy, and you color it red if you're a girl.
What if you're
And-
colorblind?
My argument to that is, first of all, you're talking to a fucking 5-year-old or a 6-year-old. Number one. Number two, by looking at the kid and reading their name, doesn't that let you know if they're male
I
or
know
female?
that for Birchbank Public School, they ask the child, they do a lineup, because my girlfriend has 5 kids. 3 of their kids go to the same elementary school. They do a lineup when they're doing attendance and the kids are going in. They do like a high five, a hug, a shake, whatever, and they ask them, "What are you today?"
Oh my god.
Yeah, so that again, I
That's
agree.
conditioning
Schools
them.
are doing it. They're not supposed to be.
That's crazy.
So they're finding different ways of doing it
Yeah.
because there are some provinces that have jumped on board with that agenda, which is completely messed up. And I think we discussed this before. There's a video that's circulating online where there's a really cute little boy, and I think his name is, I don't know, Thomas or something. He's like 5 years old or 6 years old. And an adult is talking to him and they're sitting at a table, and the adult takes out $10,000 in cash and puts on the table and says, "Thomas, do you want this $10,000 or," and he opens up a drawer and he takes out 2 Oreo cookies or these 2 Oreo cookies. And Thomas goes, "I want the Oreo cookies." He goes, "No, listen, you can buy tons of them with this. It's $10,000. He's like, no, I want the Oreo cookie because he wants it now. Now you're going to tell me that that child has the mental capacity to decide on, even though he's born a boy, that he should be a female?
Yeah.
Like if you ask a fucking kid, "What are you?" He'd be like, I'm Paw Patrol, or I'm a car, or
yeah.
whatever. Like what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like their mind is not developed enough.
Yeah.
I grew up as a tomboy, but does that mean it made me a boy? No, I grew
Yeah.
up as a girl. But now in today's society, that's wrong. And I would have had to identify as a boy back then if I was going through a tomboy stage, which I don't understand that completely.
Well, interesting you bring that up because I blame a lot of parents for that.
Okay.
Because today, what happens is like if you have a son and he's 13, he's going through puberty, he has a high voice, and he's kind of scrawny and whatever, and he's being picked on in school. A lot of the parent, because he's depressed, he'll talk to a counselor at school, and the counselor like, maybe you're a girl. You ever thought about that?
The power
And-
of suggestion is like really
It's like
Yeah.
conditioning.
like there's an
that, though.
actual like psychological term. It's not really for gender. It's for if they're saying like, "Oh, someone raped you" or something. If they like put it in your mind enough, you can like condition someone to actually believe it happened.
Yeah. So when they speak to this poor kid, he's so depressed, and only girls are sympathetic to him in school. He doesn't have a lot of guy friends. He starts thinking, maybe I am a little bit more feminine. And then after that, they will, speak to the parents, and the parents like, "Oh, they sympathize with the kid," and they make it a point with the doctor. And the fucking doctor spends 20 minutes with the kids. Like, "Yep, here you go. Here's a prescription," because they're getting paid tons of money. They don't want to get canceled if they don't support that. So a lot of girls, and I've read this stuff online, especially on Twitter, where they're in their 20s or 30s and like, thank God my parents fucking loved me. I was a tomboy when I was younger. And I was way more masculine. I played with my brothers. We wrestled and I played all kinds of sports, rugby and everything. But now I'm a beautiful woman. And I'm so grateful that when I went through that period, my parents loved me and they hugged me, right? And that's why I didn't go through this fucking transgender movement. And there's a lot of people now, and the media is not covering it. There's a lot of people who went through the entire transgender movement and they're going back. And they're lashing out at their parents. They're lashing out at doctors and counselors saying, "You know what? If my parents just fucking hugged me and gave me love and gave me support and confidence when I went through this period, I would have I would have been fine after a year or two." But no, instead, they believe what the counselor was saying. They took me to a doctor. The fucking doctor didn't even know me. Within 15 minutes, he's saying I should get my penis chopped off. I think it's a little bit more. It should be a little bit more than that.
I saw this video on social media on TikTok about this woman being pregnant, and no matter what the baby was, what he was born as, they were just going to say that they were just like them, they, it,
That's
whatever,
wow.
and let the kid
Yep.
when he's old enough
I've actually seen
decide
that.
his gender.
Yeah. How the fuck
Yep.
is like?
Yeah.
So I used to work in a doctor's office, and I've literally seen it before my own
Happen?
eyes because we have to
Wow.
make baby charts for the newborns, so the doctor can like give the baby their shots and stuff. And we can't put a name on the actual folder, and we like nothing to specify what that child is.
Because they want the kid to
Yeah.
just decide
Interesting.
Yeah,
what they are.
I mean, I know that people do that when it comes to religion. A lot of parents do that now, where if they were Catholic or Jewish, like, you know what, I'm not going
Yeah.
to push this on my kid. When he grows up, he can decide if he believes in God. I think that's a little bit different than actually
Yeah.
Yeah,
chopping
that's
off
different.
body
yeah.
parts. Like,
Yeah.
you know,